Waiting for all the vibes to say, hey, we're live and all that goodness. Yeah, looks like we are. Seems it.
Yeah,
How's it going, everybody?
and then,
We are here again. Here we are.
I was about to say incredibly offensive. Hello, everybody.
Well, you missed your opportunity. Actually, no,
Well,
you
now.
didn't. We're live right now.
Oh, well. Anyway, I was saying, I really think we need to kill all humans because it would make for better entertainment if we were all out of the picture.
You're
See
insane.
what I'm saying? Okay. Well, you were. I mean, we're taught you were in agreement earlier, but
You are
whatever.
a complete madman. I think we all know that, though. I think we all know
So
that's.
how you doing? How are we all doing? I'm doing swell.
So, for everybody who's here for the first time, or if you just stumbled in from where the hell you came from, this is the Reset Button. This is going to be episode August 2nd, 2017. And we are going to be talking about backlogs today, all the games that we have, but we haven't had a chance to play, and we would love to play. First and foremost, let's get something out of the way, because I know people who are watching the live version are going to say it. Yes, the hair's gone. I cut it. It's gone.
Why'd you cut your hair?
Because I have to get
Why
a
did you do
job.
this? Why do you have to do that?
Um, I need food.
Okay, that's a fair reason.
Yeah, I need food. Unless I'm gonna steal it.
But,
Unless
well, I
unless our
you could
grand
have both.
listeners are gonna like send me food in the mail, which probably isn't a good idea, by the way. Probably
I
not.
think I think your Patreon assistance or whatever we do, that would be the better way to go about it.
Oh, that would be the. I could order like a fucking pizza a month. Woo!
Send us Taco Bell coupons. They're pretty
Perfect.
nice.
That would be the perfect
Yeah.
way. But in terms of it, the episode from last week has not been put up in podcast form because I did kind of lose my job and I've been kicking the can down the road. But I am going to get it done right after we do this episode here. It's gonna be a double whammy. You'll get both episodes at the same time, so you can put it on your iPods or. Oh, speaking of which, iPod Classic is officially gone.
What? I don't even know what this means.
It means
iPod.
it means everybody's got to get with the times.
Did they stop selling the iPod now?
No,
Is that what
the
you
Touch
mean?
is still going to be around, like the one that looks like an iPhone, but it's not. But the old one, like the little one, looks like a tiny square. You could possibly swallow the piece of shit. They're not making that one anymore.
Why not? Everyone cool that cared about. I didn't even know they were still making it, honestly. I'm trying to catch up with you here. Um, oh no, it's
Oh
such a
no.
heartbreak.
Yeah, I just had to throw
really
that
hope
out
they
there.
never get rid of the cassette.
Oh man, what do you mean magnetic tape? Why would we get rid of that?
See, I just buy vinyls because they're still available for purchase.
Oh, look at Eric. Look at
Yeah,
Eric.
look at me.
Do you also have
I don't have.
lattes while doing that?
Well, lattes are nice. I don't have any actual. I don't have a vinyl player, but I do have a couple vinyls because they're nice to look at. And I can pretend I'm listening to.
You could pretend that you know what they sound like.
Yeah, I just like close my eyes and imagine. The White Album sounds really good with your eyes shut. You could just be like, man, that's an album.
From personal experience, I could say because my wife, or ex-wife now, did get a record player and got a couple vinyls, and I can tell you, I can't tell the difference. I can't. I
Oh
don't
no.
understand what the big fuss is, other
I mean,
than
I
you're a
can give you
hipster.
the real answer to that because
Hipsters?
I did kind of work in communication. Vinyl, just the audio is more clear, and it's because you have to go through a digitizing It's a subtle improvement.
Yeah.
Like it's not something that like I don't know, that you would need, but it certainly sounds better
Right.
on vinyl.
What if it's so subtle that no one gives a shit?
Well, it takes a trained ear, but once you know, it's kind of like the difference between buying a $200 microphone and a $700 microphone. The majority of people will never know the difference, but if you continually use it, you'll know, and you'll prefer the more expensive one, and you'll appreciate the value. So, it's like it adds up to the certain people who listen to it.
Well, fair enough.
But
since
that
we're
has a lot to
broadcast.
do with video games.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that's just
has-
something out there. It is a broadcast. We do podcasts.
Yeah.
We have microphones, so that fits.
Yeah. Imagine if I used a really good microphone. It would probably be better, but my words would be the same, so no one cares.
Imagine if we had a Patreon that I would love everybody to donate something to so we could get Eric a better microphone. Pretty pleased with sprinkles on top.
That'd be nice.
That would be nice. But in terms of backlogs, getting back to that
Oh,
topic.
yeah.
So I actually got a bunch of games from my shelf to physically show since we do the live version.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I'm just going to hold some of these up here. Like, this is just a portion of them. 4 games in hand here. We've got Wii games, Wii U, GameCube, PS4, Xbox One. It goes further than that. I also have... Here's some PS3 games. Here's some NES and an SNES game. So I've got quite an insane backlog of games I'd like to get on, and this is probably just like a smidget. I don't even...
Here's my first question for you. Why do you buy games and not play them? Like, why do you own games that you haven't bothered playing yet?
Okay, that's a fair question. Now, my answer is probably going to be very different from everyone else's. Because, and I assume this has to do with my bipolar, but I just like to collect them. I like to see how many of them there are, and I just like to continue going. And it's really strange. If I have, say I have 58 PS4 games, for example. My brain says that should be 60, because 60 is a divisible number. 58, not so much. You need more games. And that's my brain that just, it's crazy. But I do love the games. I certainly will not buy a game that I think sucks.
I'm very much trying to reduce what I buy, and I'm doing a pretty good job of it, being poor helps. But one of the things that typically gets me are a combination of Humble Bundles and flash sales.
Yes.
Because if you have a timely sale, like a Steam sale, you think, oh man, I don't know if I'll ever play it, but the value is too good. I can't pass this up. There was a recent example. Shadows of Mordor was $4 on a flash sale. This was like 5 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up buying it, even though I hate that game. Like, I bought it knowing I didn't like it because I never finished it, and I'm like, $4, that's a rental, that's a sandwich. I'll just not have a sandwich today, and then I'll have this game that I can have forever. And that's how I like balance it in my head from a value perspective.
That also...
And then a lot of...
Yeah, that also fuels mine, just so you know.
Yeah, it's they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the sale's timed. It's like, it's the impulse buy. You're trying to trick people to an impulse buy. And I'm getting better about reducing it. Because I'll see something for 15 where I'm like, man, I really want that at 15, but I'll know it'll be cheaper later.
Right.
And I don't need every game right now. Humble Bundles always trick me. Or not even trick. Sometimes I just go in a Humble Bundle for like 1 or 2 games, and then you end up getting like 6 games. I'm looking at my list of games that I own, and some of these I don't even know what they are. I'm looking at games like Consortium. I don't know what Consortium is. Insurgency?
Insurgency.
Never
Nope.
heard of it.
Mm-mm.
Never heard of it. I got a ton of Telltale games that I've never actually played. Game of Thrones. I own it on PS4 and on Steam,
Oh.
and I'm never going to play it. Half of these games can't run on my computer. That's certainly an aspect.
But you'll get the Humble Bundles anyway. You don't care.
Yeah, but then there's series where I know I'm gonna love it, but I just don't. It just takes me forever to get to, and a lot of those series are I have to make certain times to get to because I don't want to do it casually. A series like that I haven't touched yet. I know the Metro series is very well loved. There's a new one coming out very soon. I have them, never touched them, but I know I would like it. So I try, and I have a rule personally
Oh,
where I have in the summertime, I have what I like to call cult classic summer, where because we have this drought. There's a drought right now. There's nothing really coming out,
right.
and even if there was, I couldn't afford it. Now's the perfect time. So, as many of our listeners know, and I've been playing a lot of the Nikon Falcon games. So I've been playing a lot of Ys games, which are fantastic. I'm now on their JRPG series, Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky, which is pretty fantastic. And I'll talk more in depth about it later if you're interested. But then I'm also, Kingdom Hearts 3 got footage recently. There are Kingdom Hearts games I never played, even though I own them. Because I have those collections on PS3, but I never beat Birth by Sleep until 2 weeks ago, and I still got Dream Drop Distance to play. So there's still stuff for me to do. So every summer I try and play all these cult classic games because I end up finding a lot of my favorites that way. Last year was Yakuza. I was just playing all the Yakuza games in a row, and that was a hell of a good summer. And it turns out that's one of my favorite series, period.
Yeah.
But I really had to commit myself to start it.
And just like you were saying earlier, so with my NES collection, a lot of games I pick up that way fall into the same category because they're kind of an impulse buy because they're on the cheap. By the way, really quick, hey Po, how's it going? So,
Yo!
I'm just going to go through some of the NES games really quick. Some of the ones I have here. Like, if you walk into a retro game store and you love NES games like I do, and you see Blaster Master on the shelf for $7, of course you're going to pick it up. Blaster Master is a great game. Been on the difficult side, but that's a perfect reason why you want to put that on the backlog, and when you have a day where nothing's going on and you want to beat the game, get to it.
How do you define backlog for you? Is it games you've never played or games you've never beat?
Both.
See, I don't fully know or necessarily agree with that. Because there's a lot of games I don't feel I have to beat to know what it is and to have enough of a context for it. Like Blaster Master is a good example. I'll never beat Blaster Master. I have no intention of ever beating it.
Oh, I do.
But I know what that game is. I'm pretty confident I know what the game is. I could explain it. I could talk about it. But
fair enough.
But like, I don't know, something like, as I say, Trails of the Sky. That's going to take me a long time to get through. It doesn't also help that there's a trilogy of them outside of the other games in the series, making it probably a total of like 5 of them right now. But I have to beat those to understand it. And I feel like that's pretty much what backlogging is for me. It is a series I do not have a grasp on, and depending on the game, I will play it until I feel I have enough of a grasp on it to talk about it, or I'm done with it.
So Poe says, I use the backloggery to keep track of my backlog. Haven't heard of it, and I'll certainly need to check it out. Really quick, Catawolf, how's it going, buddy?
Hey!
So, the other one, this was not cheap, but I picked this one up because I definitely plan to sit down and actually play it because I've never played the original NES Kirby, so I picked up Kirby's Adventure.
Oh, that's a great game.
So I definitely plan to sit down and just have at it with that game. It was $20 at the store, so that's not an impulse buy, but still definitely one that you want to pick up and really sink your teeth into when you get a chance. Monster Party is another game. I'm not quite sure what the hell's going on with this one. I remember it as a kid, so I picked that one up. Again, not an impulse buy. This one was actually $30, so it was not cheap, but I definitely wanted to pick it up and get into that one. And then this one would probably fall in the category that you don't agree with, because I have played Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse. But I want to beat it. I really want to beat this thing.
Let's beat it for that game. It has branching paths. So you're going to beat it more than once so you can experience the other worlds?
First, I got to do it the first time, don't I?
No, but that's not my question. What's your definition for beating it?
I would love to beat it, making sure that you have like all of the side characters. So you want to get Grant, Alucard, and then the third character, beating it all with all 3 ones. But that game is notoriously hard as fuck on a Tuesday, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
See, this is my point, though. Like when it comes to a backlog and getting it off the list, I don't necessarily feel like completing it is required. Like sometimes it is. I feel like games that are really story driven do require that. Like another game that was on a backlog forever. I got into the old Baldur's Gate games. Side note: I don't recommend going to CRPGs if you didn't grow up with CRPGs, because those things are just not made for you. Like the UI is just a nightmare for me to go through. There's something about the way those games are made that just do not function with me. But I roughed through it, and I have beaten Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. But I'm never going to replay it to see what would have happened if I played it evil dickish. You know, which I feel like is very important if you're going to talk about completing these games. Mm-hmm. But it's off my backlog. I have played enough of it. I can talk about it.
Right.
And then I can learn through osmosis the rest of it and be like, okay, so let me look up on the internet what I would have gotten if I had gone the other direction. You know, sometimes that's all it takes. That's all you need. So, but it's a personal limit.
Yeah, there is a personal touch to someone's backlog when it comes down to it. Like Poe was talking about with this site, it keeps track of games that you've beaten, games you 100%ed. Some people think that a backlog should be something that not only do you beat, but you complete it 100%. Which those are like the hardcore crowd. I couldn't hang with those people if I wanted to.
That's too much game.
Yeah, way too much game. So here's one that I bought. I intend to pop in at some point, or I wouldn't have got it, of course, but I'm interested. I never got a chance to try Metroid Prime 2 Echoes.
Oh, that's my favorite Metroid Prime game. So you should.
I picked that up, and I definitely...
When you're done, I'll borrow it from you.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely plan to pop that in. Resident Evil Revelations for Wii U. Grabbed that when it was on the cheap. Have not even popped it in yet, so I'm interested to see how that goes.
Okay.
Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. I played it a little bit, not enough to really know what's going on with it, so I plan to get into it at some point and just really have at it. And then here's one that you actually got me to pick up. Mad World.
Oh yeah, Mad World is a fantastic little game. That's a short game, though. It'll take you like a day or two to get through it if you really work at it.
So yeah, I'm interested to really get into it and see what's going on with it. The only amount I played is when you were over, I popped it in to see what it was like, and I said, okay, looks cool. And fortunately, that's all I've done with it so far. So I want to do more. Fallout 4. Haven't really played that much of it because, I don't know. I do want to...
not a good game.
I want to get into it, but...
You know what it is? I feel like Fallout 4...
Help me out here. Yeah, say it.
This is for me, right? And when I say it's not a good game, it's not because I'm being mean. It is because the magic of a Bethesda game has been broken. We've had so many open world games and so many RPGs that there's nothing special about a Bethesda game anymore. Because the whole concept of them is that you're supposed to live in them and love them and play them forever and ever. But someone kind of broke the curse. I played The Witcher 3, which is one of my favorite Western RPGs of all time. It's a phenomenal game. Deserves every bit of love it gets and the 10s it gets. You can't go back to a Bethesda game. Bethesda games don't have the character. It doesn't here's a trick I do on people who defend Skyrim to death. Name 5 characters and describe them to me right now.
Oh, if you asked me that about Skyrim, I would go, I don't know. I really don't know. I That is the thing. Like, if we take in everything you just said about a Bethesda RPG, it goes double for Fallout 4. Simply because I do want to get into it. I do like Fallout 3. But the problem with this one is it's a prettier Fallout 3. Is
What
basically.
New Vegas did when it came out was add a lot of character and writing and actual quest structure that was interesting for the gameplay that you were doing. So I feel like that game gets a pass, but most Bethesda games just do not have that sense of character.
This does not
So,
get a
like,
pass.
it doesn't get a pass because of what year it is made and the fact that it feels like an artifact. But if you play the older games, I don't think they hold up. I don't think Bethesda games are nearly as good as we remember them being. They're warm blankets, but they're not anything more than that because the entire experience feels like a blur to me rather than specific moments that I remember.
And along with
So,
that, Poe made a good observation about New Vegas, too, since we're saying how good that was. That was by Obsidian.
that was.
This is not.
Obsidian makes fantastic games that are broken on release, but they get fixed later
But
on. And
eventually they get fixed and everything's okay.
yeah.
So I do want to
That's-
get into Fallout 4, but I have not been able to so far because there is a barrier that's keeping me from enjoying it. I'm hoping to break
I
that
keep
barrier.
hearing you're not missing anything.
If I don't get past that barrier, I'm not heartbroken. It was $20. To hell with it. Rise to Tomb Raider. That was one of the reasons why I got an Xbox One. I still haven't popped it into the system.
Well, the thing with Rise of the Tomb Raider, I mean, I haven't played it yet. I'm looking forward to playing it, but okay, I'm just going to seem like a dick today.
Okay.
And I don't do this intentionally. So the spell was broken on me with Uncharted, and I no longer really like Naughty Dog games very much. And that one's very controversial. But hear me out before we get to the yelling at me. I think the writing is fantastic. I'm not trying to tell you that Naughty Dog games aren't well acted and well performed. Okay, so like the thing that people love about them, that's fine. What my problem is that there's so much filler in scripted moments. Like climbing is a good point of that. It's like this non-skill thing that exists to pad a game. And then like, oh, here's a fake fall, and the word that someone used that ruined the game for me was the term jump scare. Every time like an animation plays out, you don't expect it's a jump scare. It's like this thrill ride, like, oh, he missed the ledge. It's just a different form of a jump scare. And once I heard that, I can't unthink it for those type of games, where it's just like, oh no, they're gonna fall, but it's jump scare because my character's not really in any danger. Like they're gonna be fine. It's scripted. It's gonna be hard for me to screw this up.
I feel like you just killed it for me too.
Yeah, I mean that's Uncharted I'm talking about. Now I haven't played the new Tomb Raider, but I felt the same.
I'm hoping it's not like that, but it very well could be.
Now, one thing I'll give Tomb Raider, the one before the newer one, that was good is the fact that it had a lot more interactivity in it, just not enough to satisfy my problem there. Like, you know, there was an actual environment that you explored. It was not like an entirely linear game. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Uncharted either. I just don't have hype for it in the same way. So, you know, I think that's a factor. I think these are factors. At the same time, I know Naughty Dog's like one of the most beloved companies in the world, so I can feel like the internet is going to beat me, and you're right too. So.
I don't know if I would go that far. I mean, I can't think of too many companies where I would get like bent out of shape if someone said something negative about them. Even my love for NetherRealm Studios, like if you go on the Fighter subreddit, people bash NetherRealm all the time as like a subpar company that makes subpar fighters. And I'm just like, eh.
Yeah, but NetherRealm doesn't get 10s on every game they make.
They don't make enough games.
Like, they don't get 10s, period. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean on them.
That's also true.
But, like, you know, Naughty Dog, every single game is the game of the year. And Last of Us was considered game of the generation from the majority of the audience of the PS3. and I don't agree with that.
I really
But
didn't like
but I get
the
why.
stealth elements in that game.
I don't like any of the gameplay of it, but I totally agree from a narrative perspective.
The narrative was
Like,
was fantastic. I mean, that was amazing. But the stealth elements were if you fuck up one time, you're dead. That kind of sucked. I
my
wasn't really
problem
big
was
on that.
my problem was I think the gameplay. This is a whole separate tangent, and I feel like anyone who was gonna like us no longer will, and that's fine. Sorry, guys. My biggest problem with that game is that in a world that feels as dangerous as it was, I still felt overpowered, and that's not good. Like I always felt like Joel was this miracle man that could kill hundreds of waves of enemies. And normally that's not a problem. Like in an Uncharted game, that makes sense. But in Last of Us, you're supposed to feel weak and fragile and on this journey and beaten down. And I didn't have that sense.
Well,
Like Ellie took on waves of enemies, of human enemies, and I'm just like, okay.
oh, I was going to
This-
say you need to come over and show me how it's done then, because like I think they're called clickers. Those fuckers take me
I'm
out
not
every
talking
time.
about the clickers. I'm talking about just the people.
Oh well, yeah.
The clickers you feel more weak against, but like my point still remains, you can overcome them pretty easily
Oh.
if you know what you're doing.
Oh, against other people,
Like-
Joel's a badass. That's what he does.
Yeah, but that's not like the point of Last of Us. Is the thing. There's a term that people hate, and it's very pretentious, but it works here. It's called ludonarrative dissonance, and I feel like that game has it in spades, where the gameplay doesn't match the story. It's like if you play BioShock Infinite, you're eating food out of the garbage can for gameplay purposes. It's like, yeah, you're doing it, but narratively you're not. But you're doing it.
Fair enough.
And it's weird that you are. And I feel like Last of Us had a lot of that.
Okay, before we get car bombed, I'm gonna move on to the next game because I don't
You
know.
should.
I don't know about you, but I want to live to see tomorrow. So
Let me tell you why it's shit. Anyway, go on.
we're gonna talk about the next game here. Now, this is one I did start, but I didn't go much further. But it is fantastic. I love the studio, Quantum Break.
Ooh, I've always wanted to play it, but I'm not going to get an Xbox to do so.
That is the one thing that I think have held a lot of people back from trying this game. If you really love the way that they did Alan Wake, you'll love this too. And honestly, I made a bold prediction about Alan Wake that it was going to be the new face of horror. Obviously, it wasn't. But that didn't take away the fact that it was a fantastic game from all fronts. Amazing stuff.
Max Payne 2 is one of my favorite action games
Yeah.
in terms of like writing and world building and all
Yeah.
that. So I could totally see this game being really good.
Yeah, I have very few critiques of Alan Wake. I think the only big one is they introduced a gameplay element right at the end of the fucking game, so you couldn't really use it, which was just silly to me. But that's because I think they planned to do like the DLC second adventure, so fuck it, that's what they did. But Quantum Break is really good too. Anybody who hasn't had a chance to try it and wants to get in on that, definitely worth it. I think it's also for PC. So if you don't have an Xbox One, you can definitely do it that way.
Yeah. I don't know if it's still for sale. For some reason, I think they had to pull it from sale. Like they lost rights to
Oh,
soundtrack.
oh
super-
man. That's,
Yeah.
that's such heartbreak because you could tell, like, the storytelling elements and everything that they introduced in Alan Wake is definitely present in this as well. And I think, like, every review out there pretty much said the game is spectacular, but it didn't sell. Which is...
Yep, I was right. It is no longer sold on Steam as we speak.
Oh...
It has been pulled. Although there's always illegal ways you could get a hold of it.
Well,
But it's going to have to be your only way now.
I guess if that's what you got to do, because as far as I'm aware, used copies of this game are few and far between, and they are expensive.
Nitpick on other end of the world. We should never make games that have an expiration date. I think it's dumb. One of my favorite games was Scott Pilgrim. I mean, it had its problems, but it was still a good game, and that is no longer available for purchase. So if you wanted to play that, you can't. So there seems like a lot of games that just, San Andreas had to have half its soundtrack removed in patches,
Oh my
which is
god.
ridiculous to me. I mean, this only for a time just seems to be a terrible deal.
It is a terrible deal. Why would anyone want to do that? Why would anyone agree to that?
Because you don't make as like they don't think about the long term. It's like most sales come up now, and then we forget that people just continually buy your games repeatedly over the years, which I think we're more on to now.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that like everyone will continue to buy the same game if you put it on a different platform.
Yeah, because just like I was saying, that's the big killer when it comes to Quantum Break, because it's a great game. Now you can't purchase it for PC. If you do get an Xbox One and you're like, well, I want to get it for that, good luck, because there aren't a lot of used copies out there, and when you find them, they're expensive. That's just,
Wow.
that's unfortunate. Really,
Rest in peace, Alan Wake.
really quick comment from Poe here. Oh, now that's tasty there. He said Uncharted, Last of Us are prettier Telltale games.
Oh,
The hate continues.
I don't entirely disagree with that. Um, I would say I'm going to argue this. I don't think all Telltale games are bad,
Mm,
and I think Uncharted games, first of all, they don't have like stories that branch.
mm-hmm.
Neither does Telltale. Oh, but like I don't know. I feel like they do different things, but I can totally see that argument. Like you're there for the story.
Can I just
it's
say,
not a-
I
Yeah.
didn't mean to cut you off there. Can I just say I don't like Telltale games?
Which ones have you played?
Walking Dead.
Season 1?
Yeah, the thing
Okay.
I don't
Agree
like
with you
about
there.
them, the thing I don't like about them is they're not games.
Okay, I'm going to dispute this immediately because a lot of the games I play would classify as not games.
I don't
A
feel
lot
that
of
they're
games I
games.
like are known as walking simulators. So, what is your definition of game? Something with a win-loss state?
Basically,
Is that it? Okay. So then my argument to you is the fact that how many games hold you by the hand so you're guaranteed to beat it?
well, I
Like,
mean,
I
I
don't-
can understand that,
I
but
don't understand the idea that like you have something 3D modeled with interactive elements in terms of like story branching or gameplay, and that's not a video game. It's like if I play Gone Home, right? That is the only way I could ever unearth a story in that way would be through a video game because I'm exploring it on my own terms. I cannot die in Gone Home, but it is the only way I could ever explore it. If you put it in a book, you would read it in the order of the pages. If I made it in a movie, I have to watch it in order.
Mhm.
But a video game allows me to actually explore an environment and look through the environment and have a personal touch. So I disagree on the notion that video games have to hit certain aspects to qualify.
Okay, fair enough. And I'll even go ahead and strengthen your side of the argument here, because a lot of people enjoy Kirby's Epic Yarn for Wii. You cannot die in that game. You cannot. You cannot do that. That is not an option. Still a
The
video
idea
game.
that video games have to fit the explanation of I have to be able to win due to difficulty just doesn't feel right. Like as a whole medium, we've gotten so much bigger than that it just seems kind of quaint to say, nope, games have to be a thing that you beat, and that's it.
Fair enough. Let me
And that's the whole
rephrase.
point.
I do not like Telltale games because they do not appeal to me as a video game.
What I would recommend you more is not necessarily Telltale, but one of the games I really liked was Life is Strange. It kind of does, or no, actually, what would be more gamier would be Until Dawn. It's kind of like a Telltale game that's a little more interactive, but it totally like sells you more on that idea.
Mm-hmm.
A little more gamier. The branches really do branch in that game, and it's a thrill ride.
Right.
Now, as a video game, it's probably not that much in terms of interactivity, but it does so many things right, I think you'll forget.
Fair enough.
Like, story, you'll just get sucked into it. And sometimes that's enough. Now, I also go on into the internet that a lot of people don't. I play a lot of indie art games that are available online because I'm a dork. And I've played, like, different types of games with different types of ideas. you know. And like I've played a horror game that has worse graphics than Doom that could scare you, called Judith, and that was really interesting. And I've played so many different types of things. It's really hard for me to just limit down what a video game is, other than an application that opens up and sucks you in one form or another.
Fair
That's
enough.
much
You're absolutely right. You're right. I think being a little too hard on Telltale in terms of it. Now that you said those points, you make really good points. But I don't know. It just, to me, Telltale does not appeal.
If you're gonna play one Telltale game, I have a weird recommendation for you.
Uh-oh.
Because my favorite one is surprising because I'm not a fan of the series that it's based on.
Okay.
The Borderlands Telltale game is actually fantastic.
Really?
It's way better than the Borderlands games, and it is by far the best Telltale game.
Don't tell Pitchford that.
He knows. That's why he made Battleborn, because he couldn't compete. But for real though, like, if you're gonna get one, I'd recommend that, because I think Telltale's at its prime when it's doing humor. Drama is not its forte. I remember being affected by Walking Dead back in the day, but like now it doesn't hit as hard, and zombies are kind of played out. But Borderlands really works from a narrative gameplay perspective.
So what you're saying is stay away from the Telltale Batman.
I don't recommend that.
Because I love Batman, but I'm just like, I don't see how Telltale could do anything positive with that license.
So, here's my hot take. I've only played episode 1 because it was free. It wasn't bad. It was an episode. It was basically an animated series episode, and that's fine. Like, I view Telltale games probably closer to an interactive cartoon more than I do like a normal video game like Arkham Knight or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a lot more about, hey, what are they going to do with the writing? And what's the plot going to be? And how are the characters going to act?
Yeah, that's typical Telltale.
Yeah, and I feel like it was a decent episode. My problem with it was that Telltale's gotten lazy over the years. If you're going to complain about Telltale for one reason, it's that they've gotten lazy, and it's totally an argument that you can make. But I still feel like them at their best are still good, and they have done good. They have been surpassed, but they have done good in the past. And I feel like Batman was kind of them just reusing too much and sticking to a formula.
And I assume they also weren't able to get Kevin Conroy.
No.
I didn't think so.
Troy Baker. Because he's everyone. In every game. He was Joker, and now he's Batman.
I don't know. I need Kevin Conroy. It just feels weird without him. Interesting point in the comments section, since you're not a fan of Borderlands. Poe says, since you're not a fan, you've crossed the line. Round up every copy of Mother and burn them.
Oh! Okay.
That's rough.
Well, I mean, Mother at least had like 3 games, and they were all pretty good.
Poured over Mother 3 here, finally. Make multiple copies and burn them all in front of Eric.
Wow, what have I done? Okay, since this episode has turned into me justifying my dislike of video games, I feel like Borderlands, believe it or not, I'm actually okay with the style. I know people are upset by the dialogue, but I think it's kind of fun in a stupid cartoony kind of way. My problems with the game is that the gun feel doesn't feel very good, and that the loot doesn't work in the way that they intend. The guns don't feel as varied or feel as good as they could. Destiny felt like a weird closer step in the right direction to what I wish Borderlands was, where it's like, hey, every time you get a loot drop, it actually feels good. The problem with Destiny is that there's only 8 gun types, so there's far less, but all the guns feel good to shoot. While Borderlands is like, none of them really feel that good to shoot, but the numbers are higher. And so that's my biggest problem with Borderlands. It's a fun game to play multiplayer. I don't hate them, I just don't think they're that good.
I've never really jumped into them, to be honest. I've played 2, obviously. I have not played any online.
I like 2 a lot, but I still have my reservations. And like, I don't know. Like the pre-sequel kind of unsold me on a lot of Borderlands. Because it was just like, here's another one.
Yeah.
Full price.
Pre-sequel was it was interesting. I gave it a rent and tried it out. I thought it was all right. I do have the Handsome Collection for Xbox One. Haven't installed it.
Well, I mean, it's a multiplayer game, so unless you have someone to play it with, it's kind of
pointless.
That's another thing with Borderlands. It's really only fun with multiplayer, but whenever I hear that argument, that always tells me that the game doesn't have enough by itself. It's like every game is better with multiplayer. So if I hear it needs multiplayer, unless it is made exclusively for multiplayer purposes, that's usually a red flag for me. Like Resident Evil 6 is a game that, it's better in co-op. I'm sure it is. Doesn't make Resident Evil 6 a good game.
Right. Usually, usually games like that where if you need that second player aspect, you have to ask yourself, what if I can't have a second player?
This episode really should be about what popular game do I not like and I'm going to shit on. Give me more games I don't like, and I'll just shit on it one by one.
Well, I wanted to actually talk about the last game that I'm going to bring up on my backlog here, because we're getting a little long in the episode. I don't want to go too far, but here's one that I'm sure a lot of people will talk about. So,
okay, go on.
Final Fantasy 15. I have not really had a chance to get into it. I drove the car around, I got confused, I said okay, and then that was really the end of it. I need to get further into this game before I can have a real opinion of what's going on.
Okay.
So,
do you want my opinion of it?
Of course I want your opinion of it.
Okay. Well, okay, so every reviewer gave it an 8.5, and I agree with that score. I think that's the right score to give it.
Okay, why?
Okay, so there's 2 levels of me looking at this. One as a game, and one as a Final Fantasy game.
Okay.
So I'm always conflicted here. It is a game that was clearly rushed, which is hilarious to say since it took 11 years to make. But, like, there was content missing, there were big problems with it, and about 70% of my problems have been fixed through patches and DLC. It was a game that was not done, and it is slowly becoming more and more finished over time. And now they're about to add this whole multiplayer element to it that's basically GTA Online for 15, which looks really interesting, and I have my eyes on it. But what all this kind of shows me is that the game wasn't done. It was clearly their first time making an open world game, and there are things about it that I absolutely love. But it is not a perfect game. I'd say it's probably like if it's in the top 10 of my Final Fantasy games, it's on the lower end. But I'm still glad I played it, and I still feel glad that Final Fantasy is back and doing well.
Yeah.
It's just a game I play, and I'm like, I could totally see how this could be done better. If I could fix this and twist that, and that would be perfect, right there. And I think what it does well are things that people wouldn't expect from it. So like, it's the exact opposite of what 13 is. Where 13 was like this super convoluted game with absolutely no heart and was incredibly linear. But you always knew what you were doing in terms of like where to go, and like the gameplay was pretty stale, but 15 is an open world game with a really simplistic plot, but has a heart, and has a real heart to it, and that pushes it along. The gameplay is in real time, so it's more of an action game, and it's hit and miss. It depends on where you're fighting and all that, but generally I think it's fun. The biggest problem with it, I think, is that a lot of the side quests aren't good. There's a lot of fetch quests and quest structure which are just like, we need to use up the whole map, and we don't know how to do it. So we got to make a million side quests to justify you walking into an area that you wouldn't walk otherwise.
I noticed that even with the small bit I played so far, where it's just like the map, there's a whole lot going on, but there's no reason to go in any of these places until they're like, here, side quests. Go to this rock.
It was pretty clear it was their first time making an open world game. Where, I mean, if you look at the history of Final Fantasy, it is surprisingly the first open world game. My biggest problem with it was, it didn't have that structure, so to speak. But because of what it did, it has this vibe that none of the other ones have, and I think it captures it. It captures a real bromance, and honestly, that's what it is. It's a game about going on a road trip with your bros, and it's about how men can't communicate. And it doesn't sound anything like Final Fantasy, but that's what it did. And the thing is, I really like what it did. It's just very different from Final Fantasy. So, it's the choice between convoluted with no heart and really simple, but the heart is there. And I think they made the right decision. So, I have more hope for future Square Enix games if they take their time. I think this game was in development hell for so many years. I think the future will be brighter, but this one is and again, most of my problems have been fixed through patches. I mean, they keep adding content.
Oh, I hear they've been patching the hell out of it.
They've been adding cutscenes. The DLC adds some story bits that people were confused by. And the core plot, I think, is pretty good. It's just really simple.
No, that's
don't
not always a
expect...
bad thing.
It's not. It's just the story isn't that good, but the characters and the way they act with each other is fantastic.
Fair enough.
So that's kind of how I am on it.
Fair enough. And speaking of future Square Enix games, there's one that's supposed to be out by the end of this year. I think you've heard of it.
What's that?
Kingdom Hearts.
That's not this year. It's next year. 2018.
There's already pre-orders being taken at the local GameStop.
Yeah, but the trailer said 2018.
Oh, so it has been pushed to 2018. Well, that's a shame. We'll
Not
have
really
to wait.
Pushed.
Well,
that was the first time they gave a date.
We'll have to wait a bit longer. But Final Fantasy 15, I'm sure I'll enjoy it more than 13 because when I think of 13, I think of a trash fire. So should be better.
If you're gonna play a Square Enix game, you should play Nier. But I don't know who said that.
Well, that's also a fantastic game too, but not on my backlog because I don't have it.
Well, they're both easily borrowable.
Very true. Very true. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. It's about close to the 50.
I didn't even get to my backlog, but okay.
My God, it's been about 50 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Name a few yours, just quickly. Throw them out there.
I don't have the list in front of me. I'm scared.
It's like a ticking time bomb.
I'm on my Steam, let me tell you. The Command and Conquer games.
Okay.
I want to get through them. This is by genre. World and Conflict.
Okay.
I want to play that. Tesla Effect. I really want to play that at some point. I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream is a fantastic game, but I haven't completed it. Let me look at my other platforms. I never beat Braid. I'll be beaten someday. Scribblenauts. Never played any of them. I've heard they're good.
Yes.
The video games. What do you call it? Yeah. I guess that's what I have in front of me at the moment.
Well,
I'm working through Nikon Falcon games, and I'll beat them, and I'll get through them, and they'll be good. I'm enjoying them so far.
I think maybe you've learned a valuable lesson today.
Alto Boyfriend. I'm gonna read that at some point. You date birds in that game. It looks great. I've heard Star Wars is a pretty good series.
Yeah.
It's not on my backlog. Because I played them, but it was to buy me time while I looked for the other ones. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's what I got in front of me right now. Titan Quest. Titan Quest is on my backlog.
Okay.
It's like a Diablo clone. Yeah.
Okay.
I keep trying to get Torment. I'll never do it, but I'm gonna keep trying.
I think you've learned a valuable
Someday.
lesson today.
Dear Esther. No, I've beaten that one. I lied. Um, what was the lesson that I'll never play Alpha Protocol because my computer can't run it?
No, instead of, just hating on a bunch of games the entire episode, get to your backlog.
I don't know. I'm already working on my backlog. What do you want from me? I'm currently in the process of doing that. And I've at least played and beaten Metroid Prime 2, so you're not one to talk.
Wow.
Snap, snap, snap.
Wow. That's hardcore.
Best in the series, in my stupid opinion.
Oh, I have no response to that because I got triple snapped.
Snap, snap, snap.
Post says Corey in the House should be on that list. No.
It should be, but here's the thing: I've already completed it on the Nintendo DS. I have the save file fully complete. I'll let him borrow it.
No.
Why not?
Because no. What was that Shrek game that you were saying that needed to happen so badly?
Super Slam?
Oh God. Is that on
That's
your back
not
list?
No, because I've played it, of
Uh-huh.
course.
Well, it's not on mine, so we don't need to worry about it anymore.
We do.
We'll
You need a
never
taste.
we'll never bring up Shrek Super Slam again.
You just did.
Ah.
You're literally responsible for it.
Ah.
You know what you've done. Don't you pretend towards the audience.
No.
They know what you did. You wanted to remind me so we could have this happen. And that's fine, because I know a place that's selling it.
Oh, the sad thing is we do know a place that's selling it. I hope they've
You
already sold it.
introduced me.
I hope they've sold it and then they'll never buy another copy.
I'll buy another copy just for us, and it'll be great.
Oh God. Okay, so that's the end of it there. We had Eric get through his backlog really quick because he spent most of the episode talking about games he hated instead of his backlog. But
Hate's a strong word.
but you were entertained either way.
I had critiques, not full-on hatred. There is a difference.
I see. Tell them what the difference is really quick. Let's hear it.
These are games where I see the good and I respect the fan base is liking it, but I don't fully agree.
Oh my God.
Or hatred is something that I just will make fun of you if you enjoy.
Post says Shrek Super Slam at Evo 2018.
I mean, honestly, it's probably going to be there. It's got a big following. People love that game. And you're being foolish for not giving the world what it wants.
I will make sure to watch clips of Shrek Super Slam before the next
That's not
episode.
what they want.
That's all they're getting.
Well, if you're going to do that, you should at least follow the professional scene so you can see what the high game looks like.
There's a
The
professional
top level
scene.
tier.
Oh my God, no. That's horrible. I'm ending this right now. That's what's happening here. Okay, so this has been the Reset Button, August 2nd, 2017. What the hell is going on around here? Have a good night.
Good night.